Well, it's the 20th of February. This, believe it or not, is Gamston Wood near Retford. The first chance that temperatures have been anywhere near mild enough to warrant coming out moth trapping. We've had probably the coldest winter on average, although nothing spectacularly low in terms of temperature, for many a year. And this is only the second moth trapping session of 2025. The last one back sometime in January. So moths are flying. I've seen a couple as have been driving towards this site, and indeed a couple as have got into the wood. So we should be in for a decent night. We've actually had probably the coldest winter, or coolest winter, for many years, to be honest. And most of February has been quite typical of what we've had in the last 5 or 6 Marches. It's been sort of cold, dull and gloomy, and not very, well, not very exciting, I suppose you could say. And so there's not been any conditions warm enough. Typically, as most trappers all know, that trap during the winter months you need a temperature really no lower than 8 degrees centigrade. But I have a sneaky feeling that some moths will still fly, whether it's just for an hour, from dusk, even when the temperatures are low. Tonight though, no such problems. It's 12 centigrade now, and the moths are starting to come in already. We're on to 3 pale brindled beauties, 3 Tortricodes alternella, which is an extremely common Tortrix moth. It perhaps might not look like a Tortrix moth when you see one, but 3 of those already in, and the first common Quaker of the year. So we are doing okay. But the main thing is, got a chance to run a trap. Conditions are still now. I thought it was going to be continually breezy. It has been all day. It's been breezy and rain on and off all day, but it's very pleasant now. No notable breeze and clear skies, but the temperature is forecasted to stay mild throughout the night, and certainly in the few hours while I'm here. And while it's still relatively quiet, I thought we'd have a look at a pale brindled beauty that's coming. These are often quite variable, but not as variable as spring usher, which is a species that I'm hoping for. There may well not be a spring usher record for here, although I possibly saw one as I was driving down, but we'll see how the night progresses and what species we get. But female pale brindled beauties you won't get to light because they're flightless. They have only vestigial wings, but the males will come and they'll arrive in large numbers. This is a species that I get at home. As I'm talking to you now, there's another 3 that's just dropped in, and this one is absolutely immaculate. Might not be colourful, but it's beautifully marked, as are a number of our early spring moths. You'll see at least a couple of moths flying around the light. The smallest is Tortricodes alternella, and the one that's just gone up to the right of the light and is now behind it is a pale brindled beauty. 5 of those in now. Other species will follow, but the mild conditions following such a run of cold nights will mean that moth trapping will be very profitable should you go out into the darkness. I love trapping this time of year. Not always a great number of species. It's just nice to get out. Well, there's decent numbers of pale brindled beauty. A lot have settled between the sheet and the car, but they're coming in, and as pale brindled beauties often do, they're coming in sort of downwind, so to speak. Here's another one just coming directly in. That's a fresh one, but there are others that are on the ground and in the leaf litter. They do a lot of flitting and jumping out of leaf litter and flying a couple of feet and then back into it, and you may well be able to see several doing that to the right of the screen. Good numbers now. I need to have a count up, but I've just had a look at the distribution map for Spring Usher, and Dillis and myself had thousands and thousands of records sent in to us over the years, and of course the records that we accumulated ourselves, and we've got no record of Spring Usher from this area of Nottinghamshire, so it may well be a new species for Gamston Wood. Probably been here all the time, but no one's been out early in the year trapping. And certainly if you like your pale brindled beauties, this is as good a place as any in the county to see them. Temperature's gone down to 10. It was, say, about 13 when I got here, and then once we'd been running for about half an hour, it had dropped to 12. So it's soon gone down to 10, but it is very mild still. This is February, of course. Good numbers of moths, couple of new species since I last did an update, and then a single chestnut, which was about the last moth in, and small specimen as well, actually. There's been one satellite, but other than that, it's mainly a continuation of pale brindled beauties coming into the light, with nearly 30 now. There's another one that's just dropped in. Nothing unusual or out of the ordinary yet. I was hoping maybe for one or two eclairis, but no, not a one. Still a decent number of moths on a decent night. Still occasionally get just a bit of breeze, a few gusts, but sheltered here. You can see the moths still coming in, virtually all pale brindled beauties. Well, among the 30 plus pale brindled beauties that are in is this single melanic individual. It's not very often I catch one of these, to be honest. I thought, while it's in close proximity to one of the more normal forms of pale brindled beauty, take the opportunity to show you. Absolutely featureless, apart from the veins being slightly darker than the rest of the forewing, but pretty unmistakable, because nothing else really, or not much flying this time of year that you could confuse it with. So a form of pale brindled beauty that I suppose I don't catch really more than maybe one or two a year, if that. Nice to see though. Well, it's still a pale brindled beauty fest, you could say. They continue to drop in. We're on to 34 now, which is a decent total. Certainly away from Sherwood Forest. We did used to get some good numbers in Sherwood Forest, and all of them are coming from the left hand side, or the side where the car was. They're coming in from that direction. The wind is blowing towards the car from the opposite side, and all of the moths, bar one pale brindled beauty, are the car side of the light, or on the light box itself. Looks like another common quake has just dropped in. No sign of anything out of the ordinary. But we shall see. So I'll probably give it till the 2 hour mark, which will be sort of 2020. And certainly if this breeze keeps on, but thankfully I am protected from that breeze here, and the temperature is still 10, so it's not as if it's dropping. So we'll see what comes in. I think it's cup of tea time now. I'm holding a pot. That often means one thing: something good has come in. And in the case of the moth that's in this pot, that's putting it lightly, at least here in Nottinghamshire. You may well have noticed on that last clip that at one point when I mentioned about a common quaker coming in, if you rewind and just look at my reactions were that looked a little bit different, but it was the other side of the light. And after I'd finished that little piece to camera, the moth continued to fly and came round this side, and then I thought, it is very orange, it looks quite well marked. The reason on potting it up I found that it looked quite orange and quite well marked is that it wasn't a common quaker after all. It wasn't a chestnut. Well, in a way it's a chestnut, it's a dotted chestnut. As far as I'm aware, this is the third record in the last 100 years for Nottinghamshire. It may well have occurred somewhere else and I've not updated the website, but the two records that I do have the data for both came on the same night in 2022. One was trapped in Martin Gray's Broadholme garden, Broadholme being a small village on the border of Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire. The other specimen was found in Eaton Wood. Eaton Wood is across the road from here, and I very nearly went in there, but not knowing exactly the layout, I thought I'll go into Gamston Wood. And so amazingly, this fabulous moth, I will try and get some footage of it, otherwise it'll be photos job, but it seems to be very well settled now. But it appears to be the third record for Nottinghamshire, but I have a sneaky feeling that it's occurred in the north of the county in the last year or so. But at the moment, this is the first record of dotted chestnut in Nottinghamshire since, if I refer to my notes, the 24th of March 2022. It's an absolute stonker of a moth, and of course it's a lifer for me. This is the first time I've seen it, and it's a moth that I've been hoping to turn up for the last few years, ever since it sort of came back into Nottinghamshire again. It is a species which is on the increase in the UK and is probably spreading north from further south. What a surprise! I didn't think that I was going to get anything unusual. It was looking that way. There's still moths coming in, obviously, but this is the star of the night so far. Well, here is the amazing dotted chestnut, a moth, one of those moths that I've dreamt of catching for several years now. First appeared back in Nottinghamshire after a gap of over 100 years in 2022, and I'm sure there has been another record, and I'm sure it's from the very north of the county. But this is a moth which is obviously breeding here. It must be breeding here, with a record from just a couple of 100 yards away from Eaton Wood, across the road from here at Gamston Wood. So what a moth! What an absolutely fabulous moth. It's unlike anything else, really. I know it's got chestnut in the name, but it's not even like a chestnut. Beautifully marked. It's calmed down straight away. I'm absolutely over the moon to be looking at this and to be talking about this moth. One of a number of moths which has made great strides again in the last few years. Long may it continue, and long may it keep turning up in Nottinghamshire. Fabulous moths, absolutely beautiful. Well, it's 22:30 and I've had 2 hours 10 minutes, and to be honest, I don't think I'm going to get a better moth if I stood and trapped here for another 4 or 5 hours. I think the best moth of the night has come in with that dotted chestnut. I can't believe that I'm talking about a dotted chestnut. I've always hoped that one day in one of these videos I would be talking about a dotted chestnut, but I never expected it tonight. It came in more or less out of the blue. But it's been a good night. Lots of pale brindled beauties on the sheet, dotted borders, and March moths too. They're the 3 main species, but decent number of other moths. A really good session, and boy am I pleased that I've come out here. I'm glad that that wind has dropped, although it is occasionally quite breezy. And so now I can pack up with a smile on my face. Moth trapping does that for you sometimes. Often when you least expect it.